been really positive
It's been
so
pretty
far.
amazing. It's only been out for a few days, and the Spotify numbers are insane to us. Just people are constantly listening, and we're getting a lot of DMs and a lot of messages just being like, I think people are shocked at how bold it is. And we've gotten a lot of like, oh, you guys did not hold back. And which is really cool to hear because that was kind of the goal. We were trying to do something different while still being in the Terminator world, but we wanted it to be, its own thing and have this bold brashness, but then also have some very emotional components. So we've been getting a lot of like really positive feedback on both of those elements of the score, which is really cool.
I know we're back together again. We're just gonna break down some of the tracks. I gave you some three, and if you want to explore more, be my guest. The floor is yours. If you want to start with whichever track you like, how it came to be in the breakdown of it.
Oh yeah, I guess we could start with Run,
Yeah.
maybe. Run was one of the kind of part of one of the early demos that we had written before we knew anything about the show. And it was a little bit more electronic, I'd say. And I think the demo was probably like 2.5 minutes or something. It's like, okay, we have like 5 minutes to cover here. There's a lot of action, so a lot changed. But it starts off with this Terminator ambience that we play a lot of times when you see the Terminator, and these string samples that we reversed, distorted, kind of turned into like a little melody almost. And we just cut them up and placed them throughout the beginning to really just create like a perverted madness as the Terminator's just on the prowl and killing everybody. And then it finally kicks in once Aiko gets engaged, and that is a little bit more like closer to the demo track that we had, kind of started with. They had temped with that music, so we're like, okay, we know they like that. That's a good jumping off point. But we went a lot. We ended up changing it to be a lot more rock heavy, a lot more guitars, distorted bass, um, and just like we wanted this scene to just feel kind of like fun and like we knew it was menacing and it was scary, but like we're just starting out, we're just introducing these characters. Like
It
it should
needed
get
to feel like, well, Dylan told us it needs to feel like you're punching someone in the face,
yeah.
which I think we kind of
Yeah, I
did.
think we did. I think there's a lot of metal hits that feel like they were certainly punching my ears in the face. I feel like I did damage to my ears doing the scene, but uh yeah, I don't know. We just followed the action from there on out. And yeah.
There's one moment that I particularly like where we're going with she's running around on this rope in this circular space, and
Mm-hmm.
he's chasing after her. He's now clinged onto her. It looks like the rope's gonna drop. She gets her, I don't remember what they're calling it, but the tool that she stabs him in the eye with. And during that moment, it flies into the air.
Mhm.
And that's when we cut everything. And I think what we did was we EQ'd um, all the way down so that you're not hearing any of the high end. And that's when you get, we brought in a different synth that sort of had this whirring sound while it flipped in the air. And then when she guides it back in, everything comes back in a gradual like building. And we took off the EQ sweep.
Yeah, that was a fun
Which was
one
fun.
because it just sat with the picture perfectly. Yeah, it was a perfect way to be able to use something that, they temped with that we had originally created and then turn into more properly like this is like the sound of the Terminator. This is how we're gonna open the series. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what that track reminded me of also again, it's just the feel of it more than anything else. Um Terminator is known for its theme, right? Like everybody knows its theme. But one track I really love in Terminator 2, when T1000 does its first chase when Schwarzenegger and John O'Connor and Sarah Connor go down the elevator. They sit in the car, and he
Yes.
starts running, and there's this music, da 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 da, and I felt that those instruments and that that was like 30 years ago. It's
Yeah.
still timeless, right?
I know.
Yeah.
It,
I
it
know.
had it had those it had that feel of it. Like it just kind of brought me back to that moment when
That's
T1000
great.
does that chase. I
That's
just thought I
great.
should
I love
mention it.
that.
No,
Yeah.
that's so good to hear. That is the goal to still be
Bef
Terminator.
Before we go to the next track, what kind of reactions have you been getting from people, like whether it's on your social or anywhere
Yeah.
else?
It's been really positive
It's been
so
pretty
far.
amazing. It's only been out for a few days, and the Spotify numbers are insane to us. Just people are constantly listening, and we're getting a lot of DMs and a lot of messages just being like, I think people are shocked at how bold it is. And we've gotten a lot of like, oh, you guys did not hold back. And which is really cool to hear because that was kind of the goal. We were trying to do something different while still being in the Terminator world, but we wanted it to be, its own thing and have this bold brashness, but then also have some very emotional components. So we've been getting a lot of like really positive feedback on both of those elements of the score, which is really cool.
Do you know the numbers of Spotify? The most recent numbers that you know of, if you
Right
want to
now.
share?
I think like right now, like we have access to like the like the metrics of like the whole release, and like so far
Right.
it's looking like almost 100,000 streams just on the
Wow.
release, which is like
Yeah.
we have no expectations putting out a soundtrack, so
Yeah.
it's a good sign. So we're pretty happy.
I think people are surprised because I remember, and this is just two examples, obviously doesn't represent everybody, but just if it was, when after we spoke, we posted like a YouTube link that was going to premiere on August 29th, I think like a week before, on
Mm.
different Terminator Facebook groups. And few of the comments that were like, what the hell is this? Like, where did this come from? Right? Like, and then when people started watching and hearing it, like I even on our YouTube channel, somebody said the sound design of this is crazy. Like I'll read it up for you. And the music as well, of course. But people, yeah, like you said, are pleasantly surprised. And I mean, even for me, like we talked about it before, I listened to the music on its own, but just listening to it itself, it's amazing. It's yeah. I
Thank
know
you.
I'm saying it too much, but it's just
Oh,
it deserves every bit of every bit of credit that it can get.
Thank
I'm
you
just
so
gonna read the
much.
comment.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the comments that was made. The audio design in Terminator Zero, especially the music, was pretty fantastic. Great stuff from these two. And then somebody asked the day before, will there be the theme be on the soundtrack album tomorrow? So it's amazing. People are,
that's great.
really embracing it. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
you
Yeah.
probably yeah, moving on to the next track. I don't remember what I sent you.
Oh yeah, what was it?
Hold on. It was the Chase and is it Kokoro? Is that how you
Oh
pronounce
yeah,
it? Kokoro?
Kokoro. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that was another. You picked some of the ones that started from the demos. I
Yeah.
mean, that was. I
Oh,
think
really?
we, I
Hmm.
think we originally called that like Sarah because
We may have
we didn't know.
based it on Sarah Connor as a
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah,
Um, but it started off with vocals.
yeah, that was when you started,
That's
I
when I
think.
started. I sang it first. Um, and then we re-recorded my vocals with the London Contemporary Orchestra Choir. And we wanted it to sound, this was, I mean, yeah, this is before we even saw the scripts, which is absolutely wild to think about. But I just remember I wanted it to feel really feminine, but I also wanted it to feel mystical. And I think when we ended up getting into it and we realized that this concept or this melody line would be a good fit for Kokoro, which is the AI that is going to battle Skynet.
Mm.
Um, she is technically, gendered female-ish, and even though she's a machine and she chooses who she wants to be, and there's three of her, and it's these three different identities that then need to come together, and I think that this melody line really helped serve that image. And then when we got the choir involved, we pieced it out into a bunch of different harmonies and turned it into this sort of like mystical, it's there's like a mystery element to it, but it's also very feminine, but it's also very strong, and you're not quite sure what's going to happen. So that's where it started.
Yeah, and then I think once we learned more about the project, like as we were getting into it too, um, we had done a whole ambient take of running bells through
Right.
actually,
That one,
oh yeah, that
this
one.
this meditation.
I forget what it's called. It's like a tongue bell. um, and we yeah, one of these things.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so like
Only people seeing the video can see this. But
yeah.
one of these like meditation bells.
We just ran it through a crystallizer and a bunch of other effects to create this crazy ambience that kind of felt organic, but very much didn't. And we did a whole ambient track of that. And at one point, we were like, "Oh, maybe this could just be only ambience in like the Kokoro room." But then obviously, we were like, "Okay, there's so much drama going on." We scored it proper, but we ended up taking a lot of that ambience and just fading it in and out of the Kokoro track when we felt we needed a little bit of scope when the camera angle would like go high. So I feel like that's kind of how we brought the machine element to that cue.
You know what's amazing is that I was when I was listening to it, like I was wondering. I again we talked about this before. I don't know anything about music in terms of instruments and just but I just know when I hear something good, I like
Hmm.
it. Um, it- I could feel that there were not just only instruments used, but something else that was used, and you just kind of showed me that right
Hmm.
now. And it reminds me, you know A.R. Rahman, right?
Hmm.
Who did Slumdog Millionaire?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a track in there, Osaya, and he uses the train track sounds
Hmm.
Oh,
synchronized with the
cool.
music. Um, his music actually, if you're into listening to it, I can send you a track. When he was
Oh, please.
17, he produced the first album for a film, and he was like I think 16 or 17 or 18 maybe, and he used the
Crazy.
keyboard to make some music that feels like it came out yesterday.
Hmm.
It's just so amazing. And then again, that was another reminder for me that, just hearing these fresh vibes and something that you haven't heard before, and that's what stands out about your score.
Oh, hell yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about the chase?
Yeah.
The
Can you say this
chase.
one?
Yeah, that was I'm trying to think of how I think that started by taking so we had these stick hit elements that was in they were in Run. They were throughout the whole thing, and we took those same samples and
Which, by the way, we created those samples
yeah,
by hitting drumsticks on
Of
any
course.
anything.
any wood that we could find in our room. So
Yeah.
like I feel like we took oh, I
It
have
might have
to
been the desk. I don't know.
well, there's a video that I took that's on, I think it's still on my Instagram, but it's of you recording yourself hitting on like a wooden
The
shoe
shoe rack.
rack. So it's just like not instruments. We
Uh,
just kind of got scrappy with that. So that's how we created those samples, first of all.
yes.
But then
And that was a jumping off point. But that one, we brought in a lot of new elements that we hadn't scored with yet. I feel like there was a new synth that was kind of like this droning pulse that would just like be in the background. And we found, I God, I wish I remember the name of these plugins, but like
I
there's
know
one weird synth that feels like a glitchy high up.
it's part of the Rolly Equator 2
Right.
stuff, I believe.
And we just affected that quite heavily.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that was just a fun one to do because it was, I think sometimes in the series, the action has felt like there's a lot of weight and drama behind it. And for some reason, I feel like this one felt like we had a little bit more uh, liberty to have fun with it. Because it was
Hmm.
just, it's just the cops, like, I don't know. It's like, it's not Terminator anymore. It's like, she can outrun the cop, like, she can do this. So it's like, it felt, it felt more fun. So we kind
Mhm.
of went a little wild with it.
And then we had to create a second one. We got, you go away from them, those two characters, and then you come back to them, and they're still in the
We're
chase.
still doing it.
So we had to create a whole other chase, which we call the Chase Part 2, and we wanted to
Yeah,
bury it as well. So.
Yeah.
that's so sweet. What is your favorite tracks, each of you separately, and why?
Oh God.
I know
I
it's a
think
it's a tough question to answer, but
I think I'll say Emergence. That's the opening of episode 3. It's the first time we're like fully in Terminator's brain. And we just really wanted it to feel like, oh, we're in a serial killer movie now. And it
nice.
was just a really fun one to score because I don't know, we used an arpeggiated synth that just like felt like it was matching like the Terminator's like heartbeat if he had one. Um, and we took all of the same uh, distorted uh, string samples that we used in like Run in the beginning of that, but we slowed them down by like I don't know, like 500%. There's just something insane, so that you'd even hear like the digital glitches from slowing them down that much. And I don't know, it just felt like we were inside of his brain. So that was a really fun one to score.
Yeah. Oh God, I think for me, my favorite is It Will Never Be the Same, which is when it starts with Malcolm going through the city on his way to the office. And
Mm,
it's just this dark, depressing scene of this overpopulated city and people on their way to work and trying to function when this man knows that the end of the world might be coming. And so it's from his perspective, but you're just watching the city and it's raining and there's a dog causes a car accident and there's some robots walking around and it just feels completely foreboding. And then we ended up taking that melody line and that became part of the Terminator theme. Um, and it's part of Malcolm's theme. It's part of just like the entire series. We just keep harkening back to that melody line.
And it was fun because we
amazing.
got to use that cue again, I think at the end of episode 5.
Oh yeah,
When we see the city again, except
episode 4 or
5.
End of the World.
No. We actually use the same exact. It'll never be the same. When
Oh
the
yeah.
I don't know. Can we do spoilers on here or like?
Yeah, go for it. That's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
When the Inus are finally like in control, like
Right.
and then
Oh,
we see
okay.
the city from that same like way, and it's like kind of a good juxtaposition of like, oh, we're here now. Very different place. But
Yeah.
that cue really had legs throughout the whole series. I think another favorite of mine um, was Choose.
Okay.
It happens right as God, another spoiler. I
In
hope
episode 8.
yes, it happens in episode
I don't have
8.
to say that
Um,
spoiler.
and it was this really pivotal moment. And we weren't really sure what we were going to do with it yet. But when we first started the project, Production IG wanted us to not only score um, episode 1, but was also just curious about other ideas we were coming up with so that maybe they could temp with it. So we created
Right.
a whole other stack of music that some of which, we used throughout the show. But we had this one cue that we thought was going to be the Terminator theme. Or at one point, we thought it could be a contender. We didn't really know.
Mm,
And it ended up being Choose. And we were like, wow, we never used that anywhere. That feels so sad that like that never had a place. And we just like put it in. And I was like, oh, whoa. It was a very
it
exciting
works.
moment where it just like it had legs. We obviously added bunch of other stuff to it. We added that like horn raunchy synth sound that is the Terminator, all of these crazy string samples. And we also got to record the LCO for that cue, which like I remember when we were recording it live, it was like it was a very exciting moment because
Yeah.
it was like, whoa, this has elevated this cue to like a totally new level.
And the voices are doing these, they're just sustaining these notes that are turning into these really dissonant harmonies. And there was a point where I remember you looked at me and you were like, "Is that right?" And I was like, "That's right." It's supposed to sound like this.
You're right.
And it elevates it so much. And that's what's interesting about that moment is it's the end of episode 8. It's close to the end of episode 8, and I'm not going to give too much away, but Kenta, the child, is in communication with the Terminator for the first time. They're actually having a conversation, and you're learning about a whole new side of things. And it's a really good, if there is a season 2, this is a theme that it's definitely a choice for us to bring in. Choose it was a choice for us to do this cue at the very end and bring in a whole new melody and a whole new cue in the last episode. I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense unless there is a season 2 and we can continue to flush this theme out throughout, because it is like where things are going. If they can, we can use this theme more.
Yes, 100%.
It was kind of an exciting little like last burst of creativity.
Yeah,
that's so cool. I think there will be season 2. I have a very good feeling. Obviously, you guys know more, but based on how the response has been and everything, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Netflix has started its own little branch called Netflix Anime. I could be wrong. I did read about it somewhere. But yeah, it would be interesting. And this is, one of the things that must be so rewarding for you guys now is that all that time when you almost wanted to kill each other has paid off.
Totally. We're like, oh, we forgot what it was like. I forget how we honestly created any of this. I do have this so like weird blackout,
total blur,
like no idea how we came up with this stuff, and don't
Good.
remember the fights we got into, but there will be more.
I'm sure there will. Well, that's what brings out the best stuff, right? When you have disagreements and stuff.
Exactly.
Just sorry, go on.
Kevin, no. My cat is
cat that's jumping on the desk being annoying. Sorry.
It's too much.
Just to wrap things up, now that the series is out, and I'm just speaking very, broadly. A lot of time what happens is whether you're an actor or director or a musician, whatever, if something is successful, you feel that, okay, you're going to get something next that's going to be bigger. And sometimes it doesn't happen for 5, 6, 7, 8 months for some people, even though the film or the series was very successful. Do you guys have something that's been coming up since the release? I know it's been only like 4 or 5 days, but has there been any kind of excitement towards your work from people looking to hire you guys as composers for future series or films?
Well, luckily we're already starting work on a horror movie that we're excited about. But all of the other stuff that we've been in the works with is probably
classified.
like at least a year away, and yeah, kind of classified. But not yet as far as like new things being reached out to. I mean, we're obviously hoping.
Definitely hoping that this can lead to some other. I think particularly we're really interested in working on more TV shows and video games. I think that this kind of music for video games would be super cool. So we're trying to get into that world.
That's awesome. I would love for you guys to do a live action sci-fi, because I think it would fit in really, really
that'd be
well.
really fun.
What's are you able to talk about the horror film, or it's something
yeah,
maybe a little. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think so. It's called Spite. It's a really cool indie horror that is currently being made. And it's psychological thriller / horror that's really dark, and it's a female directed and female characters for the most part. So I really love that. Working with more women is super important to me. So yeah, we're excited about it. It's dark.
Is it out this year?
Probably
next year.
Yeah, probably next year. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's awesome. Listen, I want to continue talking to you guys for future stuff. I mean, I know whatever you guys will work on is going to be awesome. All the pressure to you. So, looking forward to a lot more of your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thanks for having us again. This was really fun.
Total pleasure.
No, I love it. I love it. Anything you want to add at the end?
I don't think so. Just watch Terminator Zero.
Yeah, watch it, stream it.
And listen to the soundtracks.